On September 17th, 2019, Prime Minister Narendra Modi gifted himself the filled to the brim reservoir of Sardar Sarovar Dam on the Narmada River for his 69th birthday, while thousands of villagers who had fought that dam for more than 30 years watched their home disappear under the rising water. It was a moment of great symbolism. As protest swells all over the world, especially in the West, our great anti-capitalist and anti-imperialist movements for social and environmental justice, the marches against big dams, against privatization and plunder of our rivers and forests, against mass displacement and alienation of indigenous peoples' homelands, this has largely fallen silent in India. Centralia is a tale of fractured landscape in extremis, the shifting planes of reality, an India of the mind, a place both hyperreal and metaphorical, familiar yet alien. Dazzled by an apocalyptic beauty, by eclipse and fire, by joy, dread and dream, by life and death, Centralia is a passage deep into the forests of central India in Chhattisgarh, where a little-known and underreported conflict between the Maoist guerrilla army and the Indian state slowly simmers. Here, military encounters are faked and former insurgents wear the uniform of the police. Massacres are brutal and reprisals are swift. Within this labyrinthine conflict, the Adivasi, known as the tribal people of this mineral-rich land, are transfixed. To give you one example, on 13th of June 2016, Makdam Hidme was dragged away by security personnel who had just raided her village. The next day, police sent back her body, a stark, nude body wrapped in plastic, according to the account of her mother. The body was mutilated with her wrist and teeth broken, and she had been raped. Later, the police released a photo of Hidme, her lifeless body sprawled across the ground wearing the uniform of a Maoist guerrilla fighter. According to the police, she was just another outlawed fighter, killed as they carried out raids to rid the area of illegal combatants, bringing instability to the mineral-rich area. To the Adivasis, the tribal people, of course, she was just another victim of a merciless assault on their rights, as the Indian state attempts to dismantle its own constitution and deny the rights therein enshrined of the indigenous Adivasis, the Aboriginal Indians, to their land. As the Indian writer and activist Arundhati Roy has noted, the Indian government has turned the entire tribal population into squatters of their own land. It has criminalised a whole way of life, she notes. In exchange for the right to vote, it snatched away their right to livelihood and dignity. My book Centralia takes this deep dive into the forests of central India, where I try to document the intersection between environmental justice, indigenous rights, women's rights, and climate justice. We move through vast swathes of burning apocalyptic land where the earth is on fire and great amounts of lands are being excavated for mining purposes. I also tell stories of female guerrillas who often have seen some of their own sisters and family members being raped, their houses being burned down. They ran away and joined the forces because they thought picking up the guns and fighting back and the revolution was the only way possible. It tries to tell the stories of women in a country like India, what they do when they find themselves in extraordinary situations and circumstances and their roles pushed to extremities. How do they challenge their own stereotypes? My hybrid methodology eschews specificity and is deliberately disjointed, stripping images of tried visual cues that often simplify complex geopolitical realities. Centralia exposes the unsteady relationship between reality and fiction, and how our perceptions of reality and truth are manipulated. seeking to liberate the images from the oppression of specificity and gazing beyond the Jungle Book and associating this invisible conflict with larger issues of environmental degradation that's happening in places like Brazil, Colombia, or happened in the past, where people have paid a price for progress, for economic miracle, as we've seen with the Native Americans. Such exploitation comes at a price, the transmogrification of violence into the de facto language of politics. The voice of resistance is buried by alternate facts. Freedom shrinks, and what we say or who we are gets obscured. Centralia is a cautionary tale of where we are heading as a global society. In India, especially today, when the democracy is dwindling, a shadow world is creeping up upon us in broad daylight. It is becoming more and more difficult to communicate the scale of crisis even to ourselves, its size, its changing shape, its depth, and its diversity. India isn't by any means the worst or the most dangerous countries in the world, but perhaps the possibility of what this could be and what it can become makes it more frightening and tragic. Thank you for listening to me. This is Poulomi Basu. I'm an Indian transmedia artist, activist, and storyteller. And this excerpt is from my book, Centralia.